From the 22 News Plus studio, this is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of InFocus. I'm your host, Patrick Berry. We are here in the 22 News Plus studios. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Bishop William Byrne. Bishop Byrne from the Diocese of Springfield. Thank you so very much for joining me today.
Thank you, Patrick, for having me.
It is a busy time of year for you.
It is, but not too busy to come and spend time with you and 22 plus. So.
You're too kind. Thank you so very much. This is really the first chance you and I have had to sit and have a longer conversation. You know, when we've been able to chit chat on Mass Appeal, it was always brief conversations about something going on. But I want to learn more about you.
Okay.
You know, I know you grew up in the DC area, but even before, when you were a little kid, why was this a calling? Why become a priest? The world was your oyster, and you chose to become a priest.
Well, I wouldn't have to say that when I was a little boy that it would have, if you'd asked me what I was going to do, that I thought I'd be a priest one day. It was all in the realm of possibilities. My father was one of 10 children, all of whom were remarkably successful in academics and things, because my grandfather had an 8th grade education, and every single one of his children had a graduate degree.
Okay.
Pretty amazing thing. My dad
difference one generation makes.
Yeah, it does. And that was that greatest generation. My dad was a doctor. His brother was an ambassador. So it was interesting. But the oldest brother in the family, and by far my dad's greatest hero, was Father John. He was a priest. And so that made it in the realm of...
So it was in the family.
It was in the family. It was part of the... It seemed like an unusual thing. And my parents were faithful Catholics. And we would be shipped up for a week up. My uncle and 3 sisters, who were all maiden aunts, school teachers, owned a beach house up on Long Island together.
Whereabouts on Long Island?
West Hampton Beach.
Okay.
And so we would be shipped up there, the little ones, and to give my mom a break.
Can understand that.
And it was, but so my Father John would take us all out clamming. We would do things that got to know him and love him dearly, but it is just a normal uncle also.
Right.
So that was one thing. It just made it in the realm of possibilities. But then again, there's a call. God is asking something. So I went to Catholic high school. I was thinking about I'd gone to a Jesuit high school, a Jesuit college. I was thinking about, that was the only sort of flavor that I was really familiar with, was to be a Jesuit, a member of the Society of Jesus. And I actually went when I was a senior, I think, at Holy Cross. I went on what I thought would be a come and see weekend with them. They thought I was actually making an application, and I wanted to find out,
learn. How
do you sign out the car and things like that. I didn't have any idea. And I remember I got in the car, and the guy was asking me all these questions and putting me under the grill. And I wrote him a note and drove my car out 4 hours later.
Oh, funny.
And I thought, oh boy, I'm not supposed to do that. So I taught school for a couple of years.
Okay.
At the boys' school I had gone to, and it was there that and that was also part of the urging of my mom. My mom said, I'd love to have a son who's a priest. I'd hate to have one who used to be a priest. And she said, do something you've never done before. And I was picturing myself sailing across the Atlantic or something like that. And I said, like what, Mom? She said, like, get a job.
Like every parent says to their child.
So that's it. So I taught school and went to, and that was a great 3 years. So then it became sort of solidified that I wanted to at least try it. Seminary.
So what is the process to become a priest? You mentioned seminary. So, okay, you've had these experiences. What is next? So what's the steps?
So the steps now are different than the steps when I was, because Pope Francis wanted to make sure that there was more in-depth process of training. So it's actually, if you're a college graduate, it's then a 7-year program. it's quite
So
a bit.
you're in your early 30s or so.
Yeah.
It's about 30 years old by the time you can become a priest.
Right. So you have 1 year called a propedeutic year where you sort of learn, where you don't do academics, but you learn about prayer, and often you go and work in soup kitchens and things like that, prayer and charity. And then it's 2 years of philosophy, graduate level philosophy, and then it's 4 years of theology.
Oh, wow.
But what I had done, when I went in, if you had enough philosophy already, which I had studied enough, then you went straight into the last part of the program. And so I was blessed because I then was sent to Rome for 5 years.
Oh, wow. So from the time you first started that journey until you were ordained, how long did that take for you?
For me, it was 5 years.
Okay, that's not so bad.
No, it wasn't so
but
bad.
You got ordained a little bit later in life too, because
I was 24, so then I was ordained at 29 when I was a priest. So that's because I'd worked for 3 years. But the other reason I was young. When I started Holy Cross, I was 17 years old.
Oh, wow.
So I have nephews that were held back for sports and things like that, and they're like, 20 going into college, and I was substantially much younger and probably less mature. So it was good to have a few years it was good to work a job.
Oh, absolutely.
And pay rent,
real life experience.
I lived with my brother when he was doing his surgical residency, and we had an apartment together, and so it was a nice time of life.
Very good. We have plenty more to talk about with Bishop Byrne. Stay with us. We're back in a moment.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry. This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Welcome back, everyone, to this edition of In Focus. I'm your host, Patrick Berry. Sitting across from me today is Bishop William Byrne. Bishop Byrne, thank you for joining me.
Great to be here.
So we talked a lot about your upbringing and how you became a priest. Now let's get into a little bit of from the time you were first ordained to becoming the grand poobah of Catholicism here in Springfield, Mass.
You're using such technical language. The mufti, so I was ordained a priest, and I was assigned to a couple of assignments as a parochial vicar, meaning like the assistant priest. 4 years of which were spent with a delightful Irish pastor who taught me a great deal. And sadly, last summer I did his funeral homily.
Oh, that's a shame.
At 80 something, he had lived a good long life, and he made me, if they needed to make sure my Fridays were kept open in case his golf buddies, all Irishmen, needed a fourth or a sixth to round off how they would play the game, and this betting system that they'd end up giving each other $1 at the end, but it was bragging rights. And then for 8 years, I was the chaplain at the University of Maryland.
Okay,
which is fun to be on the Orange Bowl sidelines and
College Park in Maryland.
Yeah, and that was a great time. And from that time, we really built the community. And there's 14 men who are priests from my time.
Oh, wow.
At the University of Maryland, and about 6 or 7 who are nuns. So that was a great, and then lots of happy families. And then I went, after that, I was 8 years on Capitol Hill, St. Peter's on Capitol Hill, which is on the house side.
Okay.
So I did a special ministry to Catholic congressmen. We would have a monthly dinner for the Catholic congressmen, and you can see why it's nothing gets done, because they have such lonely lives. Most of them are flying in on Monday, sleeping in their office,
right,
on a blow-up mattress or whatever. And so when I would and then leaving on Thursday, and when I would do these dinners, the guys would be like, "You have triplets? I didn't know that. I've known you for 10 years, and I didn't know basic facts."
Right.
And I'd have them cook twice as much food and have those takeaway, and they would put their meals in and go off like.
It is a lonely life.
Yeah, sad little
being
lives.
federally elected.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're a congressman, on the whole, it'd be too expensive for you to maintain a house in Capitol Hill where you're going to be paying
Right.
$3,000 plus a month,
Exactly.
and then a house back here and kids. And
Right. Right.
I mean, in the old days, growing up in the area, congressmen moved to town and they moved their families, and you kind of were here all the time.
Yeah.
And you weren't flying back to try and run again. And so, well, you know, we would have them all in our grammar school. So then I was 8 years there, and that was another really fun time and a great neighborhood. Capitol Hill is a lovely neighborhood. And there's an Eastern Market where you can go buy your meats or your flowers. You know, it's just a great. Everybody knew each other.
Nice.
Capitol Hill is sort of a landlocked part of the city of Washington, so people would all know one another in the stores and stuff. So it was a really great time. And then I went out to a parish in suburban DC called Our Lady of Mercy. And quite frankly, it's in a very affluent neighborhood. So people would call it, the other priest would chase me and say, "How are things at Our Lady of Mercedes?" And it was there that I loved there also. And I was there for 6 years. And then one day I got a random phone call that came up on my phone, and I didn't know the number, so of course you don't pick it up.
Right.
And then it went to voicemail, and then it was the Pope's.
I was just going to say, it's the Pope calling.
It wasn't the Pope, but it was his representative, Archbishop Christophe Pierre, now Cardinal Pierre. And he said, "Father Byrne, please call me." I was like, holy moly. I knew it probably was that, because I had heard some rumors,
Right.
but you're not at all part of the process. You don't apply for the job.
Interesting.
It all happens secretly behind your back. So I had to have people that that would say, "I'm hearing rumors about you," but
wow.
So
that's fascinating.
Yeah.
I just assumed that, growing your career through the hierarchy of the church was something you pitched, presented yourself.
But that's how you don't get the job. Yeah, we just had an election of our Episcopalian brothers and sisters in the retirement of Bishop Fisher, and in that process, people put their names in and people vote on it publicly. Whereas somehow your name gets submitted, and then they will send out an inquiry to people that know you, like your principal if you're a pastor in a school, other priests that you've worked with. And it's a very in-depth thing, but it says very clearly, if you divulge that you've received this, then you will be, it's called the papal secret. And you will be, it'll be a serious sin.
Interesting.
So you have to keep it secret. And then they collect all that, and I don't know what they do with it, and figure out whether it'd be a good candidate. And then they try to match that to a place.
Okay.
So then 3 names are submitted to Rome, to a committee of cardinals, the highest ranking, and in order to be moved forward, the 3 names to the Pope, all 3 names have to be acceptable.
Okay.
So that you just can't have you can't pad the ballot and have 1 winner and 2 dogs.
Okay.
All three have to be somebody that would be, and then they rank you, and then they'll send that to the Holy Father, who approves whatever they usually. This place like this, where he doesn't know, not like New York, and so that's what happens. So if one of the names doesn't make it, the whole process starts over.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that amazing?
That is interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was done in groups. I thought it was individually.
So they put through 3 names, Eternus, they call it. Yeah.
So you became a bishop. You were assigned to Springfield. Luckily, it's not far from home. It's easy to get to and from DC from here.
Yeah, it is. It's not too far, but this is home now.
So what does a bishop do?
Oh, that's we govern, we sanctify, and we teach.
Okay.
Sort of the 3 main job descriptions. And so in the sense of oversight of the diocese, we have 79 parishes that are part of the diocese. Each of those run by a pastor. So my job is to try and make their job as fulfilling as possible.
And all those parishes and churches, they span all 4 of the Western Mass counties, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
So we go Berkshire, Hampshire, Franklin, and Hampden. And so that is to make sure that the oversight to make sure that they're running things well,
Mhm.
challenging issues to make sure those are confronted, but also to be the chief teacher to sort of set the vision for where we want to go as a church and
Okay.
what are our priorities and what do we want to put forth, and then to be the one to lead everyone in worship, at the cathedral. But I'm usually typically in 3 parishes a weekend.
Oh, wow.
I tell my staff I'm not bishop of an office. I'm bishop of a whole diocese. So I want to
Nice.
be out, getting to know people and hearing what their lives are about. So
Very good. We're up on our second commercial break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about that last part, getting out of the office and seeing the people in the 4 counties. We'll be right back in a moment.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry. This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Welcome back, everyone, to this edition of InFocus. I'm your host, Patrick Berry. Very excited today to be joined across the desk by Bishop William Byrne, the 10th Bishop of the Springfield Diocese. Bishop, thank you for joining me.
thank you for having me.
When we went to break, you were talking about getting out of your office. You said you spend time at 3 different parishes on your weekends. You cover 4 different counties. You're very lucky here in Western Mass, where the drive to any of those points isn't that far.
Right,
It's not Montana.
Right.
But tell me a little bit about getting out to all the individual parishes, talking to all the different priests, and how you all work together to make sure the flock, for lack of a better description, you're all on the same page. You're all doing what's best for the Catholic Church.
So there are already mechanisms that are built in that ensure collaboration, or should. There's a priest council that meets every month of guys that have been elected by their other priests. Each of the dioceses has a sort of regional distinction called a deanery. So let's say there would be, the Hamden County might be subdivided into 4 subgroups geographically, with one priest that sort of calls them all together. And it also provides a social benefit. Some places, like the Berkshires, is all one deanery.
Makes sense.
And they get together most Saturday nights for dinner to have camaraderie. So there already are these mechanisms where I get to hear from the priest. The real benefit is that I get to meet the people. So I get to go out and I've done bi-county listening sessions where people come and I'm saying, this isn't a town hall meeting.
Right.
You just need to tell me what's on your heart and where you think God is calling this church. Not what you want to gripe about, but where you think we need to move.
Okay.
And so I find it much more effective if people know you and you get to know them, because it's not that large of a area.
Exactly.
That there are people that are familiar faces and are leaders in their community. So that's why I think it's a really great gift to me.
What have you learned from the people in the varying communities that has sort of helped you do your job, or help the individual parishes do what they're needed to do?
I would say number 1 is that the Vietnamese parish has the best food.
All right, I'm going to need the address of that one.
It's right there, St. Paul's. St. Paul's in Springfield, right before the East Longmeadow line, and they do. I don't know what's on their eyes show, but they actually do meals and they are delicious.
That's
so
fantastic.
that's a plus. But so the things that I've learned, one of the things I think is touching is one of the things we struggle with is a lack of priests in geographically, but that's really a lack of young people that are staying in the area. It's more of a demographic shift. If a kid doesn't graduate a lot of kids don't graduate from BC and say, I'm going to move to Springfield.
Right. Well, I mean, you think about all of the universities and colleges that we have in our area. A lot of people come in, do their 2, 3, 4 years and go somewhere else.
Right, which is a shame, which is a great tragedy. When we lost Lego or the investment side of mass, we lose an opportunity to really.
Right.
But I see great things happening and real signs of hope across the board. Just efforts that are happening here in Springfield and around the area. But but you get to hear that sort of pathos in the voices of the people whose kids aren't here anymore.
Right. And I'm one of those. My one daughter lives in Boston. The other one lives in New York.
There you go. Yeah. And so but then you also see the people that are like, you know what? I'm a nurse and I'm a doctor. I'm going to stay here. I want to be, and this is where I want to raise my kids. And so there's, and then once you get to know them, you see this sort of a young, the age group, the demographic that would be your daughters or these young professionals. They say, okay, let's all get together.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a wine tasting or something like that. So that then you start to build community and synergy starts to happen both outside of the community, but in the parishes. So that's an exciting thing.
How do you brought up a very good point. There are not many people following the priesthood path anymore. How do you speak to that younger high school, college student, person in their 20s to explain to them the value of a priesthood path?
Well, there's an uptick,
a
national uptick. And there's an uptick, actually, it's fascinating to see across the country. Now, it's more prevalent in the South than it is in New England, but of young people going back to church and young men, actually.
Okay.
So I started out with 0 guys in the seminary. We now have 5. And then we just did this program across the diocese called Called by Name, where we asked people to submit names of people they think would be good priests. We got over 240.
That's fantastic.
That was way surpassed Fall River, which is another diocese, and Worcester. So God's got it. I just need to get out of his way.
Yeah, that's funny. That is funny. Bishop Byrne, we are approaching the end of our time together. Thank you so very much for joining me today. It was wonderful getting to know a little bit more about you. Hopefully you'll come back.
I'd be delighted, Patrick, to come back. It's great to be with you.
Great to be with you. Merry Christmas to you. Happy New Year, and cheers to a successful 2026.
Merry Christmas to you, too.
Thank
God
you,
bless.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.